One Piece chapter 1075. Now this chapter was more so the progression of events. Nothing major really happened except that we are progressing on who this silhouette individual is and who the traitor is. But overall, nothing really substantial came out of this chapter. And again, that's normal because, you know, we're going to have these chapters from time to time. But one thing I did not expect is the potential of Luffy and Zoro teaming up with Kaku and Lucci. There's always something about villains and protagonists teaming up to accomplish the common goal. It has this particular effect that I really like, and hopefully it does go somewhere and Oda is not teasing. But I'm not gonna lie, this team up here, if it does happen, is kind of fire. But before we keep going, guys, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Let's go for 500 likes. Hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content, and subscribe if you're new here. Now, first things first, the traitor. Now, this has been a topic of concern ever since we had the chapter in which the Labo Phase Dome deactivated by itself. And so from that, this brought forth a lot of speculation as to the possibility of a traitor being a thing. And of course, as we are progressing, we're getting more clues as to who this individual is. But not only that, but also what is their purpose and who are they allied with? Because based on this chapter, it doesn't seem like they're affiliated with the Straw Hats or CP0, because their intention in this chapter was actually to kill everyone in the lab. And again, I talked about this in my previous chapter review, in which I think that there's a possibility that this could be a third party, or at least there's someone that's on Egghead that is affiliated with a third party. Because it doesn't make any sense for them to be allied with anyone that's currently on Egghead, you know, based on their actions so far. So the question really comes down to who is currently affiliated with this individual. And I think this chapter sort of narrowed it down to a handful of people, specifically the Vegapunks, because someone has given the Seraphims an order to kill everybody. And we see that Shaka tries to give them a new command, which doesn't work. So this means that Vegapunk or someone that is above them, which is the Gorosei, had given them a new order. And so for the most part, this narrows it down to 6 Vegapunks, and possibly the Gorosei potentially being here. Probably not, but that's the only other outcome. So this is possibly leading us to the idea that one of the Vegapunks here is a traitor, or at least he's working with the individual that invaded. And so it makes a lot of sense to think that way. But in this chapter, there's many things that sort of contradicts that, in which in this chapter we come to see that most of the Vegapunks do get attacked in this chapter. And so this sort of rules out any possibilities that it could be one of them. Now, there is also the possibility that it could be Stella or the original Vegapunk. But again, he seems to have the same sort of authority as the other Vegapunks, so that wouldn't matter. And so this really comes down to an outside force being responsible for all of this. And of course, the only individuals that we can think of based on the authority list is the Gorosei. So there's a lot of strange things that's happening right now. There is also the possibility that one of the Vegapunks is acting so that they can make this more believable that they're not the traitor, right? So that's definitely a possibility that we should take into account. And we do also get to see a glimpse of the traitor, or at least someone that's working with the traitor or the invader, in one of the cameras or the Denen Mushis, and they appear to be almost non-human, or at least they look like a monster. But then again, it is also a silhouette, so we can't really go off of that, right? Because silhouettes can drastically change what a person should look like. But as of right now, most of the Vegapunks seem innocent because, again, they were attacked by the Seraphims in this chapter, which again leaves the Gorosei as the only possibility, and which doesn't also make any sense because we know that the Marines aren't here yet, or at least they haven't arrived yet. So there's definitely something going on here. Again, I think a third party is the more obvious answer here. And perhaps this third party is also working with a Vegapunk, because this person who invaded the lab seemed to know where everything seems to be, right? The cameras again shut off, they deactivated the dome, everything seemed to have been calculated, right? So this individual somehow had inside knowledge. So we'll see where this is leading towards. Now, with the Seraphims being enemies once again, we're definitely going to have some matchups here. Now, S-Snake was sent to deal with Usopp, Frankie, and Chopper, which is going to be very hard for them because I don't think they have anyone on their team that's going to be capable of taking them down, right? Now, Frankie is obviously going to be the massive player here because we do know that he has laser beams, and we do know that the Seraphims aren't ready to deal with laser beams. So that's something that Frankie could use to attack S-Snake, right? We do also have the Punks being being the creators of the Seraphims, so it would make sense that they would know a thing or two about the Seraphim's weakness if they do have any weaknesses, right? So I can see them holding off S-Snake till everything is dealt with, right? Now, the more interesting matchup here is when it comes to Luffy and Zoro side of things. And again, one of the matchups that we've been waiting for was Zoro versus S-Hawk, which did happen briefly, but it was only a clash and nothing really came out of it. But it seems like here we might get more than that, right? With Zoro and Seraphim Mihawk, and we'll see exactly where this Mihawk skills compare to Zoro. Now, Zoro should be stronger, but we also have to remind ourselves that the S-Hawk is the only one that we don't know what his Devil Fruit ability is. So he's gonna have Mihawk sword skill as well as a Paramecia Devil Fruit ability. Now, again, I've speculated that this S-Hawk has Fujitora's Devil Fruit, because we do know that Fujitora visited Vegapunk a couple of times, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fujitora gave some of his lineage factor for Vegapunk to have Mihawk or this S-Hawk have that Gravity Devil Fruit, because that would be insane. And I'm very interested in seeing how Zoro is going to deal with that. You know, even though Zoro has advanced Conqueror's Haki, Hack's Paramecias are still hacks. So it's going to be interesting for sure. And we do have to take into account that it seems like Kaku and Lucci are going to be supporting the Straw Hats in this battle as well. So I'd like to bet that the Seraphims are extremely powerful. Even in this chapter, Punk 2 talks about them having no chance in defeating them because these are the strongest beings on the sea. And again, so far, these guys haven't been touched or damaged, so there's some legitimacy behind that claim. Now, on the other side with Luffy, he's a Yonko and he has a lot of firepower, especially when you consider advanced Conqueror's Haki, because he hasn't used that at all ever since coming into this arc, right? He only used regular ornaments against Rob Lucci. Granted, he did go into Gear 5, which we might see again, or he might use Gear 2nd here or Gear 3rd with Conqueror's Haki, because he doesn't necessarily need Gear 5 here. But again, Gear 5 is an ability that breaks logic, so I feel like if he goes into Gear 5 here, he can easily overwhelm the Seraphims. So we'll see where this is all heading towards. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Comment down below what you guys think. You can follow me on Twitter at Ferrospace. Subscribe if you're new here, and hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.